Welcome to this class dedicated to the study of the female reproductive system.
Throughout our session, we will explore crucial aspects that form an integral part of the obstetrics, gynecology, and maternity curriculum.
Our approach will be divided into 5 fundamental areas to provide a better understanding.
Firstly, we will address the introduction to the female reproductive system, establishing the essential conceptual basis for our study. Next, we will dive into anatomy, exploring the structure that makes up this fundamental system for human reproduction.
We will advance towards the menstrual cycle, analyzing its phases and underlying processes, a crucial aspect in female reproductive health.
Subsequently, we will explore the fascinating process of fetal development, understanding how human life is conceived and develops from its earliest stages.
Finally, we will dive into fetal circulation, an essential component to understanding the vital connection between mother and fetus during pregnancy. Let us begin.
The function of this organ system is reproduction. That is why the essential organs are the ovaries, since the female gametes, the eggs, are produced in them. Other organs accompany the gonads to enable fertilization, nesting, and the development of the embryo, which will later become a fetus. We can classify the female reproductive organs into internal genitalia and external genitalia. The internal genitalia are the ovaries, fallopian tubes, uterus, and vagina. Below, we will briefly stop at each of them. Here we can see the internal genitalia. Observe the anatomical relationships between them. The uterus in the center, at the upper end, it continues with the tubes, which bring their fimbriae closer to the ovaries. Below the uterus, we see the vagina, and at its upper pole, the cervix with the cervical O's stands out.
The ovaries are the female gonads and are therefore the place where eggs are produced. They contain around 400,000 follicles that are already formed at birth. After puberty, a follicle matures each menstrual cycle and releases an egg that migrates to the uterus. The ovarian follicle then develops into a corpus luteum. Corpus luteum, if the egg is fertilized. If not, it degenerates. The ovaries are also the female sex glands that produce female sex hormones. The ovarian endocrine function is carried out by the follicular cells that surround the oocyte during its development, and from which the corpus luteum is formed. Ovarian endocrine function is cyclical, as is the formation of gametes. Ovarian hormones are secreted in a rhythm that overlaps with the menstrual cycle. The ovary secretes different groups of hormones: estrogens, progesterone, and a small amount of androgens.
Estrogens, secreted by the Graafian follicles, promote the growth and maturation of the internal and external sexual organs and produce the female sexual characteristics that develop at puberty. They also act on the mammary glands to promote their development by stimulating the growth of the ducts and stroma in addition to the accumulation of adipose tissue. Progesterones, secreted by the corpus luteum, prepare the internal sexual organs, especially the uterus, for a possible pregnancy by promoting secretory changes in the endometrium. They also prepare the mammary gland for lactation by promoting the proliferation of the lobules. Both hormones play an important role in the menstrual cycle because they prepare the uterus for the implantation of a possible fertilized egg. If implantation does not occur, the endometrium of the uterus degenerates and menstruation occurs.
There are 2 ovaries. Each ovary weighs approximately 10 grams and is almond-shaped. The ovaries are fixed by ligaments that connect them to the uterus and peritoneum. The outer part of the ovary is called the cortex, while the inner part, which is highly vascularized and innervated, is called the medulla.
Let's turn our attention now to the uterus. The uterus, also known as the womb, is a pear-shaped muscular organ located in a woman's pelvis. Its main function is to house and nourish the fetus during pregnancy. The wall of the uterus is made up of several layers, each with specific functions. The endometrium is the innermost layer of the uterus. It is a highly vascularized and glandular mucosa that undergoes cyclical changes in response to hormones during the menstrual cycle. If pregnancy does not occur, the endometrium is shed during menstruation.
The myometrium, the middle muscular layer of the uterus, consists of smooth muscle tissue that contracts during childbirth to facilitate the expulsion of the fetus. This layer also plays an important role in uterine contractions during menstruation. The perimetrium is the outermost layer of the uterus. It is made up of connective tissue that protects and supports the organ. It helps maintain the shape and position of the uterus in the pelvic cavity. These layers work in a coordinated manner to facilitate the functions of the uterus, from the monthly preparation for implantation of the fertilized egg to the birth process during pregnancy. The uterus is divided into several parts that play specific roles in reproductive function. These are the fundus, the body, and the neck with the cervical orifices.
The vagina is a muscular tubular organ that extends from the cervix to the vaginal introitus in the perineum. Known as the birth canal, it is a passageway for menstrual blood flow for the penis during sexual intercourse and for the fetus.
The vulva includes the labia majora and minora, the clitoris, and the vaginal introitus. The mons pubis is a mass of subcutaneous adipose tissue located anterior to the pubic symphysis. The skin covering the mons pubis or mons pubis, is covered with a triangular patch of pubic hair. The labia majora are two longitudinal skin folds covered with pubic hair. They are the most lateral part of the vulva and extend from the pubic mons to the perineum. The cleft between the labia majora is called the pudendal cleft. It contains the labia minora and the vestibule of the vagina. The two labia majora fuse anteriorly, anterior commissure, and posteriorly, posterior commissure. The labia majora are homologous to the male scrotum. The labia minora are two thin, hairless, longitudinal skin folds that lie between the labia majora. They surround the vestibule of the vagina and its urethral and vaginal openings. The labia minora contribute to the formation of the foreskin and the clitoral frenulum. The clitoris is an erectile organ, responsible for sexual sensations. It is analogous to the male penis. Located in the uppermost part of the vestibule of the vagina, the clitoris is surrounded by the anterior part of the labia minora. It has three parts: stem, body, and glans. The body consists of two corpora cavernosa and two joining points, pillars.
The region between the labia minora is called the vaginal vestibule. This perineal area contains the vaginal opening, the opening of the female urethra, and the openings for the excretory ducts of the major and minor vestibular glands.
We now move on to point 3 of our summary, the menstrual cycle.
The menstrual cycle is a complex physiological process that occurs in women of reproductive age and is characterized by a series of changes in the female reproductive system. This cycle has an average duration of approximately 28 days, although it can vary between individuals.
The menstrual cycle is divided into several phases.
The menstrual phase, days 1 to 5 of the cycle. It begins with menstruation, where the shedding of the endometrium, inner layer of the uterus, not used during the previous cycle occurs. This phase is associated with the release of blood and tissue through the vagina.
The follicular phase develops between days 1 and 13. During this phase, the pituitary gland releases follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, which stimulates the growth of several follicles in the ovaries. Each follicle contains an immature egg.
Ovulation occurs on approximately day 14. An increase in luteinizing hormone, LLH levels, triggers the release of a mature egg from the ovarian follicle into one of the ovaries. This egg travels through the fallopian tube to the uterus, and it is during this phase that fertilization can occur if sperm are present.
The luteal phase occurs between days 15 and 28. After ovulation, the empty follicle transforms into a structure called the corpus luteum, which secretes progesterone and estrogen. These hormones prepare the endometrium for possible implantation of the fertilized egg. If there is no fertilization, the corpus luteum degenerates and hormonal levels fall, starting a new menstrual cycle.
The menstrual cycle is regulated by a complex interaction of hormones, and its main purpose is to prepare the body for the possibility of pregnancy. If there is no fertilization, the endometrium is shed, and the cycle begins again with menstruation.
Fertilization occurs in the ampulla of the fallopian tube, uterine tube, when the sperm and egg join together. When fertilized, the membrane of the egg undergoes changes that prevent the entry of other sperm. Each reproductive cell carries with it 23 chromosomes. Sperm carry either an X chromosome or a Y chromosome, XY for the male sex, XX for the female sex. The zygote is propelled into the uterus and implants 6 to 8 days after ovulation. The blastocyst secretes chorionic gonadotropin to ensure that the corpus luteum remains viable and secretes estrogen and progesterone during the first 2 to 3 months of gestation.
Once in the uterus, the blastocyst floats freely in the uterine cavity for a few days. Then, contact with the endometrium occurs. The blastocyst adheres to the endometrium and begins to secrete enzymes that allow it to penetrate the endometrial tissue. This process is called implantation. Once implanted, the blastocyst establishes a closer connection with the endometrium. The cells that will form the placenta begin to develop and invade the surrounding tissue. The release of chorionic gonadotropin by the blastocyst ensures that the corpus luteum in the ovary remains functional.
Fetal development spans approximately 38 weeks from conception to birth. It begins with the formation of the embryo, where the cells specialize and organize to give rise to different systems and organs. During the first trimester, the fundamental foundations of the nervous and cardiovascular systems are established, and limbs and facial features are formed. In the second trimester, the fetus experiences rapid growth, develops stronger bones, and vital organs continue to mature. The third trimester is characterized by a rapid increase in the size and maturation of the lungs, immune system, and other organs. Additionally, changes occur in the position of the fetus in preparation for birth. This amazing process, guided by a complex interaction of genetic and environmental factors, culminates with birth, marking the beginning of the extrauterine life of the new human being.
The fetal circulation is a vascular system adapted to ensure the supply of oxygen and nutrients to the fetus during its development in the mother's womb. In the fetus, oxygenated and nutrient-rich blood comes from the placenta through the umbilical vein, entering the fetus through the umbilical vein, which carries the blood through the ductus venosus directly to the fetal circulatory system. Most of this blood is shunted away from the non-functioning lungs into the pulmonary artery, entering the ductus arteriosus and then the aorta to distribute oxygen and essential nutrients to the entire fetal body. After supplying nutrients and collecting waste, deoxygenated blood returns to the placenta through the umbilical arteries to complete the cycle. This unique fetal circulation ensures the survival and proper growth of the fetus before birth.
During this class, we have reviewed the anatomy of the reproductive system, and then delved into the physiology of the menstrual cycle. This was necessary to understand the fertilization of the egg and the implantation of the zygote in the uterus.
Nurses are caregivers not only of the body, but also of the soul during the sacred journey of childbirth. Their commitment and skill form the foundation that sustains the experience of motherhood, leaving an indelible mark on the lives of each family.
Thank you very much for watching this video class.